Ouais, je crois, Benoît, que vers E5, tu pourras commencer l'introduction. Benoît, si tu veux.
Good morning, everybody. We are very happy to have this session of CafecISTO Europe. It's a pleasure to have this session on the tourism of senior. We have two of the most important organizations in this field I think in the world. It's the ANCV in France and IMSERSO in Spain. These two public programs are some of the bigger structure in social tourism, and especially for senior people. So we will have today one presentation of these two organizations. The session will be organized in three parts because we also will have in a presentation of Anya Diekmann from the ULB, University of Brussels. I want to give you some information. First of all, the session is recorded and will be diffused on different network after by the ISTO. We ask you to pay attention to the microphone when you are talking. I think that all the microphones are closed, and when the questions will arrive, we will give you some. We will give you the speak. There is a traduction, interpretation. You can choose your language by clicking on the image of the world in the down of your windows of Zoom. You can choose English or French. It will be traduced from Spanish to English and from excuse me. It will be traduced
Spanish to French.
Spanish to French and from French to English. So our two main speakers are Mr. Luis Alberto Barriga Martín from IMSERSO. We will begin his speech. He's the Director General of IMSERSO, which is the Institute for Elderly and Elderly Social Services. He's working in the field of social service since the 90s, first in Valladolid and after in the region of Castilla y León. He's also a founding member of the National Association of Directors and Managers of Social Services. We have the pleasure to meet him during the first half hour. So we will begin by his speech, and after we will have a time of question with him. Some people of his team will rest with us during all the session. So we will have two time of questions and answer. First after the presentation and at the end of both presentation. I will introduce Dominique Ktorza, the Director of Social Policies at the ANCV, in the Agence Nationale des Chèques-Vacances, National Holiday Voucher Agency. I will say a word of his parcours, of his professional life just before she will take the speech. I propose to Mr. Barriga to begin now, and we will after have some question and answer. Thank you.
Muy bien, muy buenos días, muchas gracias por la presentación. Disculpen que me exprese en castellano, pero por fluidez de mensaje preferí hacerlo así, aunque luego departamos y compartamos preguntas y cuestiones. Voy a intentar hacer una presentación muy sucinta, muy resumida, de los programas de turismo y de termalismo social que desarrolla el IMSERSO desde hace más de 30 años, y voy a compartir ahora mismo la presentación que me ayudará y ayudará a la comprensión. A ver si soy capaz. ¿Se está viendo? No. ¿Se ve en pantalla? ¿Es ok?
Yes.
Ok. Bien, muchas gracias. Voy a, introducir de manera muy resumida en qué consiste el programa de turismo, los programas de turismo social que se desarrollan desde el Gobierno de España, en este caso a través del IMSERSO, del Instituto de Mayores y Servicios Sociales. El objetivo primordial de todos estos programas es promover el envejecimiento activo de las personas de edad, de las personas mayores, a través de una actividad que conlleva pues, la utilización de servicios turísticos, la realización de viajes y también el disfrutar de tratamientos termales en establecimientos balnearios, establecimientos termales. Por tanto, envejecimiento activo y la salud de las personas son el objetivo fundamental, aunque en estos 30 años de trayectoria lo que se está viendo es que no solo se producen efectos muy positivos en cuanto a esas políticas de envejecimiento, sino que también tiene el programa una dimensión importantísima desde un punto de vista económico, en lo que significa potenciar el sector turístico español, utilizando los establecimientos turísticos en temporada baja para las actividades que desarrollamos con las personas mayores. En una operación que te puedo calificar de inmensa, de muy grande, en lo que significa, insisto, para este sector turístico, por cuanto mantiene empleo, que era un empleo estacional en zonas especialmente turísticas, pues se mantiene durante la temporada baja y además se da utilización a toda la infraestructura turística del parque español en esa temporada baja. Y la aceptación del programa durante estos 30 años, en las últimas evaluaciones que hemos realizado, pues es muy elevada, ya que mucho más allá del 97,5% de las personas pues, querrían repetir. La operación para poner en marcha los programas de turismo y termalismo es tremendamente compleja. Intentaré explicarla de una manera sencilla. Trabajamos siempre en dos líneas paralelas. Por un lado, necesitamos realizar una contratación de lo que significan todos los viajes, es decir, los transportes, todos los alojamientos para personas e incluso también la comercialización de los propios viajes a través de agencias de viajes. Esa comercialización se materializa en contratos que realizamos generalmente, en el caso del turismo, que es una operación muy compleja, con varias organizaciones empresariales agrupadas, porque ninguna entidad, ninguna empresa turística sería capaz de ofrecer todo el paquete turístico, y generalmente son agrupaciones de empresas las adjudicatarias de los lotes de los viajes. Y en paralelo lo que hacemos desde el Gobierno de España es lanzar una convocatoria a las personas usuarias, que son a los pensionistas del sistema de seguridad social español, para que se acrediten como usuarios potenciales de los viajes y de los programas de termalismo, definiendo los participantes, los requisitos y haciendo una selección. Para que se hagan una idea de las dimensiones, en los próximos días yo remitiré una carta a 3,5 millones de pensionistas españoles que han solicitado participar en el programa, y esos 3,5 millones de personas se podrán acreditar para acudir a una agencia de viajes y comprar los viajes que estimen oportuno para la próxima temporada, que se iniciará en estos días o a partir ya de los inicios del año 2022. Las cifras que se manejan con todo este programa son, pues en el caso del turismo, por cada una de las temporadas hablamos de una facturación de esos contratos de paquetes directa de unos 300 millones de euros. Afecta a 900.000 personas que viajan dentro de estos paquetes turísticos, y hablamos de casi 8 millones de pernoctaciones. 8 millones de pernoctaciones distribuidas en todo el territorio del Estado, especialmente en zonas de costa, también en islas, y también hay turismo de interior y cultural. Y en cuanto al programa de termalismo, el programa de termalismo va dirigido a aproximadamente un centenar de establecimientos termales donde acuden las personas acreditadas en el programa, y aquí estamos hablando de una facturación directa por parte de los establecimientos termales de unos 110 millones de euros por cada una de las temporadas, y como beneficiarios 200.000 personas con unas 186.000 pernoctaciones. Bueno, las cifras son enormes y en general nuestro interés siempre ha sido el cuidar la calidad de los destinos, la calidad de los programas, la calidad de las actividades, la accesibilidad dirigida a estas personas, a las personas usuarias, es decir, que tanto los establecimientos sean accesibles como que puedan tener acceso a estos programas independientemente de los niveles de renta de las personas. Y también, curiosamente, está sirviendo el programa para, digamos, abordar también la brecha digital que se produce a veces con las personas mayores y en este caso estamos activando de manera muy decidida la existencia de aplicaciones o de las reservas a través de herramientas online para facilitar también la gestión de todo el proceso. La operación, estas operaciones que son muy complejas, son un ejemplo también de partenariado o de colaboración público-privada. Decía que en el caso del turismo, pues son grandes operadoras turísticas agrupadas las que obtienen los contratos para la gestión de los paquetes, lo hacen con una eficiencia enorme. Generalmente lo hemos dividido en 3 lotes, el turismo en costa peninsular, islas y luego un turismo de interior y cultural que cada vez está teniendo mayor aceptación. La financiación pública de todo el programa de turismo está en torno al 15-30%, dependiendo de los destinos y de los viajes, y el resto de la aportación económica la realizan directamente las personas usuarias. Y en el caso del termalismo se trata de contratos individuales con cada uno del centenar de establecimientos termales y con una financiación pública que puede oscilar entre el 20 y el 50% en cada una de las plazas o de los paquetes, digamos, de utilización de ese turismo termal. Bien, hay y esto será muy importante, esta forma de organizar genera una economía de escala muy importante. Es, ya digo, una operación tremendamente compleja, pero que merece mucho la pena para optimización de costes. Por otro lado, se cuida mucho la equidad y la solidaridad interterritorial en cuanto a origen de viajeros y destino de viajeros, de forma que hay una movilidad asegurada por parte de todos los territorios y también garantizar la accesibilidad de las personas a estos viajes independientemente de su nivel de renta. Luego comentaremos algo sobre esto. Existe además, y esto será importante para la gestión de pandemia o en el momento en el que nos encontramos todavía en pandemia, una monitorización también de todas las personas que viajan en cuanto a orígenes, destinos y grupos. Porque esto va a permitir también, o nos está permitiendo y nos va a permitir, digamos, tener una vigilancia con respecto a los riesgos que debemos afrontar en este momento con respecto a la COVID. En cuanto a los resultados de este programa en los distintos periodos de tiempo, en cuanto al mantenimiento del empleo, es muy importante decir que estos programas, el de turismo, mantiene empleo en aproximadamente 13.000 empleos directos y unos 77.000 empleos indirectos. Y en cuanto al termalismo, pues hablamos de 2.500 empleos directos y 13.000 o 12.000 empleos indirectos. Este es un elemento importantísimo a considerar, es decir, porque esa doble ventaja que tienen en cuanto al envejecimiento saludable, actividad de relación entre las personas de edad, envejecimiento activo y, por otro lado, un importante impulso económico para el sector turístico y sobre todo en lo que se refiere a ese mantenimiento de empleo que era estacional. Bien, a lo largo de los años, la evolución en cuanto a las plazas convocadas, plazas ocupadas, en cuanto a la gestión económica o a la facturación directa que ha supuesto para el sector turístico, nos movemos en los últimos años en cifras, pues bueno, entre los 900 y el millón de viajeros en el caso del turismo, y en el caso del termalismo ya indiqué antes las cifras. En el caso del termalismo, la demanda durante los últimos años se ha incrementado mucho, se ha incrementado el número de establecimientos termales, que por otro lado, en el caso de los establecimientos termales, otra de las cosas que quiero comentar es que están ubicados generalmente en medios rurales pequeños, y son establecimientos que sirven mucho a la economía y a la fijación de población en esos territorios, porque generan también una economía de zona muy importante, y ha habido un auténtico boom en los años anteriores en cuanto a creación de estos establecimientos, aprovechando manantiales, aguas minero-medicinales, etcétera, que existían en los distintos municipios. Bien. En cuanto al perfil de los usuarios, esto es muy interesante. En los últimos 30 años ha cambiado mucho el perfil de los usuarios de los viajes del IMSERSO. El perfil tipo es, en el 58% son mujeres, el resto son hombres, entre 65 y 74 años. Los márgenes de edad, habida cuenta la mayor longevidad de la población mayor, y esto es una noticia buena y afortunada en el caso español, hace que nuestros viajeros cada vez sean de mayor edad, pero también están en unas muy buenas condiciones físicas, y es de lo que se trata, de mantener esas condiciones saludables. Los ingresos medios de estas personas están en torno a los 1.000 euros, 1.050 euros en cuanto a su pensión media, y en el 56% de los casos se viaja en pareja, viajan las dos personas. De acuerdo, la evaluación general que han hecho siempre los viajeros es muy positiva, en torno al 90% de satisfacción, 90-96%, entre satisfechos y muy satisfechos. Sobre la acomodación, los hoteles o la parte alojativa, la satisfacción ronda entre el 92-97%, entre satisfechos y muy satisfechos. Y en cuanto a los transportes, valoración muy positiva en el 95% de los casos. Es decir, esta actividad, digamos, ha ido manteniéndose también gracias a la calidad de los servicios y a la capacidad de adaptación a las demandas de los viajeros. En cuanto a esas demandas, cada vez más el perfil de los viajeros está cambiando hacia una mayor demanda del turismo cultural, del turismo de interior y del turismo de naturaleza. Y no solo ya el de sol y costa, sino que cada vez más estamos recibiendo esa demanda gracias también a un cambio en el perfil sociológico de las personas que están utilizando estos viajes. Para la próxima temporada, y con esto ya termino, nuestros planes, digamos, a futuro es reactivar en estos meses tanto el programa de turismo como el de termalismo, que tuvieron que ser suspendidos por situación de pandemia. Creemos que España ya está en una situación de poder abordar el reinicio de estos viajes con seguridad. Esto nos va a conllevar algunas modificaciones, como son todas las cuestiones relativas a asistencia médica directa dentro de los grupos de los viajes, y también monitorización de todos los grupos para poder hacer screening, para poder tener muy claro si se produjese algún brote, cómo reaccionar, etcétera. Comunicación con las autoridades sanitarias, tanto en el origen como de destino, de cuáles son los grupos que están trabajando y que están funcionando. Y las cifras de nuestro último contrato que acabamos de resolver, que acabamos de adjudicar, pues están en torno a, de momento, 816.000 plazas, pero estimamos que que se van a poder ampliar en función de las ofertas que han presentado los licitadores. Hemos suprimido viajes de 15 días que eran muy largos porque solo los prefería menos del 4% de los usuarios, y nos hemos centrado más en las estancias de 8 o 10 días en el caso de turismo, y se ha incrementado la demanda esa que decía de turismo cultural, de naturaleza y de circuitos entre capitales de provincia. Y con respecto al termalismo, también lanzamos ya el programa para ponerse en marcha en este próximo mes de diciembre, con una disposición de plazas de 192.000 personas. En estos próximos días estamos, ya digo, en este momento en fase de activación de todo, guardando las medidas de seguridad oportunas, monitorizando todo lo que sea la seguridad de los viajes para evitar problemas, pero creemos que sí ya estamos en disposición de salir adelante y seguir midiendo, esto es muy importante, la calidad de los viajes, la calidad del programa de turismo y atendiendo a la demanda de las personas usuarias de estos viajes. Y hasta aquí la intervención, no quería pasarme de tiempo y encantado luego de responder a las preguntas que estimen oportunas. Muchas gracias.
Un grand merci pour la présentation qui est
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's very enlightening. We've understood well, I believe, the quality of the mechanism of this program, but I'd like to now, without further ado, take some questions. I'd like to make sure Mr. Barriga understands and hears the translation into English well. So there are 2 or 3 questions, but I'd like to start, if I may. Those social programs are sometimes difficult to justify at political level. So I believe this IMSERSO program here is a clear illustration of real success, as you rightly stressed. But I'd like to ask you whether this kind of program was well supported politically in Spain, or did you have challenges to tackle at that level? Could you tell us more about the political support for such social programs in Spain? And my second question is, tourism is oftentimes an international operation. This is, of course, a big difficulty for social organizations. Integrating international programs in national social programs is a real challenge. So had there been partnerships between Spain and neighboring countries, for example? Do you have any examples about international tourism? Has this been tested, or has that never taken place? So what I suggest is we take another couple of questions, if participants, of course, are willing, and then we'll give you the floor to answer. I can't see here who's raising the hand. Who wants to take the floor? Let's maybe let Mr. Barriga answer, since he's really hard pressed to get to his next meeting. Okay, very well. Thank you. Mr. Barriga, you have the floor.
If it's possible, I would like to just make sure that we have understood correctly the first question. Could you repeat that in English? I think that the second one, I got if we have
Yes, I will try. So social programs are sometimes difficult to justify on political level. I think that this program is a real success, but we never know. Never know how the political authorities react. So does this program have a broad, large political support, or is it there is some questions? That was the first question. And do you understand the second one?
Yes, thank you. Just 1 second, I'm going to translate.
Muy bien. Voy a intentar responder a las dos cuestiones si las he comprendido bien. Por un lado, desde el punto de vista de la justificación política de un programa de estas dimensiones, en realidad lo que sucedería es todo lo contrario. No tendría ninguna justificación política en este momento suprimirlo. O dicho de otra forma, se han convertido en un elemento que forma parte ya incluso de la cultura del país y que se ha comprendido que ese doble beneficio en cuanto al envejecimiento activo y saludable de las personas y por otro lado también en cuanto al mantenimiento del empleo y al impacto positivo desde el punto de vista económico para el sector turístico, tanto para agencias, transportes, hoteles, hostelería en general, es enorme ese impacto. Ambos elementos hacen que la inversión pública en el programa quede plenamente justificada y además existe incluso presión de la ciudadanía para que estos programas se mantengan y se mejoren de manera permanente. Y con respecto a la segunda cuestión, las relaciones, el partenariado, relaciones internacionales, de momento el programa siempre se ha mantenido en una clave interna, es decir, el viajero es un viajero del sistema de seguridad social español. En realidad los viajes son una prestación complementaria a las pensiones, una prestación complementaria al sistema de seguridad social español y, claro, la intención era mantener y sostener el empleo estacional en el territorio del Estado. Desde ese punto de vista, se comparte experiencia con otras organizaciones o como pueda ser con ISTO en este caso, pero se trata de un turismo español, de un programa español para ciudadanos españoles. Sí participan en nuestros programas de turismo y de termalismo personas españolas del sistema de pensiones español que residen en otros territorios, en otros países. Ellos también son beneficiarios, entonces, de esta prestación complementaria del sistema de seguridad social. No sé si he sabido contestar a las dos cuestiones.
Tout à fait, oui, merci.
Yes, they do. Thank you very much. Thank you for your answers. I'm trying to see whether anyone else has questions. What I see in the chat box on the right-hand side.
The place that just 1%, no, Carlos Ferreira is asking to discuss, saying just 1% of places in the program are guaranteed for low-income citizens. Is it correct? And so he's going to he ask explanation on the inclusive effect. If I have understood your presentation, I have noticed that a third of the price is covered by IMSERSO and two-thirds are covered by the participants. And so there's a question on the aspect of inclusion.
Sí, este aspecto, gracias por la pregunta, porque además es muy importante. Una de las cuestiones más que queremos siempre garantizar es que todas las personas del sistema de seguridad social español, del sistema de pensiones, puedan viajar independientemente de su nivel de renta. Es importantísimo que los precios de los paquetes sean muy asequibles. A esto ayuda a la economía de escala, que una contratación de estas características con este volumen pues consigue y gracias a eso se pueden también obtener, digamos, precios muy asequibles para los paquetes de viajes, pero es que además existe por parte de la administración, por parte del IMSERSO, ventaja especial para las personas con más bajos niveles de renta. Una de las pensiones mínimas en España, que son las pensiones no contributivas, por ejemplo, las personas que perciben esa pensión mínima, la más pequeña que existe, tienen descuentos de hasta el 50% sobre los precios que están pagando el resto de pensionistas, de forma que se garantice que independientemente del nivel de renta, todas las personas puedan participar. Y este es un elemento, desde un punto de vista de la inclusión, que para nuestro gobierno es obsesivo. El garantizar que cualquier persona pueda participar de estos programas y no vea limitada la participación en ningún caso por sus niveles de renta. Antes presenté las pensiones medias de las personas que viajaban con nosotros, pero en una de las tablas que presentaba se incorporaban datos de la cantidad de miles de personas que viajan y que tienen pensiones mínimas y que además el programa les facilita y no podría ser de otra manera el poder acceder a paquetes turísticos, culturales, etcétera, aunque tengan una pensión muy baja. Este ya digo es uno de los elementos más importantes para nosotros, el garantizar la accesibilidad independientemente de las circunstancias económicas de las personas.
Benoît, si tu permets, il y a une question dans le chat en espagnol.
Benoit, if you don't mind, there is a question in the chat in Spanish. I can maybe translate.
Pregunta en el chat en español.
I'll translate into French.
En español.
Presentación, recordando que IMSERSO es un modelo y ha inspirado a muchos otros programas, tal como es el caso de la ANCV, que se presentará después. Pero en esto tenemos un proyecto de observatorio turístico para medir el turismo más y mejor. Y la pregunta es saber si están realizando estudios relacionados con el impacto en la calidad de vida tanto a beneficiarios como a los trabajadores del sector y si estarían interesados en eso, o sea, ese tema de un observatorio a nivel europeo, internacional, para tener más datos y seguir mejor la evolución de toda esa situación.
Sí, es interesante el planteamiento y efectivamente todavía nosotros tenemos pendiente realizar algunas investigaciones, algunos estudios que con las distintas modalidades, la de termalismo y la de turismo, acrediten el impacto real en la salud, en el envejecimiento activo de las personas, especialmente en el aspecto de mantenimiento de la autonomía de las personas, el impacto de esta actividad real en esa autonomía. Estos son estudios que aún no hemos realizado, pero que tenemos en cartera el poder realizar. Y luego hay otro bloque de investigaciones y de estudios que debemos realizar, que son los relacionados con toda la parte económica. Yo hablaba de unas facturaciones de en torno a 300 millones de euros para turismo y 100 millones de euros para termalismo, pero una cosa son las facturaciones directas y otra cosa los retornos económicos. Esos retornos económicos directos, indirectos, a través de impuestos, a través de es decir, la economía que se mueve, por un lado, necesita de un análisis más fino en cuanto a los impactos positivos y, por otro lado, el mantenimiento del empleo y la calidad del empleo. Sí que les voy a comentar que hay una comisión formada por sindicatos, empresarios y la administración que durante el desarrollo del programa supervisa y analiza cuál es el impacto real en el empleo y el mantenimiento del empleo, y esto se hace en comisiones a nivel prácticamente provincial en toda España. Y desde ahí sí se analiza y se investiga, se hace seguimiento constante de ese mantenimiento de empleo. Pero es evidente que tenemos que analizar estas cuestiones de impacto con mayor profundidad, nunca hay que dejar de hacerlo, al tiempo que seguimos evaluando desde las personas usuarias y desde los proveedores cómo actualizar el programa, mejorar la calidad del programa y atender mejor a la demanda y mejorar los impactos.
Bueno, muchas gracias. En ISTO estamos a su disposición para colaborar en estos temas de estudios.
Gracias.
No queremos tomar más de su tiempo, veo la hora, entonces creo que Benoit, si tu peux peut-être clôturer cette première partie.
Can you maybe wrap up this first session so that Mr. Barriga can run to his other obligations? Yes, absolutely. I was about to do this. Indeed, the clock is ticking. Thank you so much, Mr. Barriga. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a todos y les tengo que dejar, pero luego si hay alguna otra pregunta habrá gente del IMSERSO que pueda atenderla debidamente. Gracias.
Merci à vous. Nous allons continuer avec Dominique Ktorza de
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. We'll continue with Dominique Ktorza of the ANCV. Dominique is in charge of spatial policies at the ANCV. She is a graduate of Language and Civilizations University, and she's been dedicating her life in the past 30 years to social policies. She became the head of the ANCV in 2007. She supports reach out actions to the most remote populations, to holidays and tourism. So that's what she's going to tell us about now. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for this charming presentation. I'm delighted to be amongst you. I'm sorry, I will have to speak slowly in French. It's better if I don't speak English. It's really better for everybody. So very modestly, after this staggering presentation of the Spanish model, I'll show you the French model that drew a lot of inspiration from the Spanish model, and I'm delighted to try and share this with you. Maybe not as well as the previous speakers, but you should see the presentation on the screen. So a brief reminder after this beautiful presentation from Mr. Barriga. France very much drew inspiration, as I said, from the Spanish model, especially in 2003 after the heat wave that hit Europe so harshly, and that gave us awareness about seniors and how we can improve their quality of life. So this drew our attention to this population category, and we've been developing programs over the past 10 years, and we have turned these programs into a national scheme to support the elderly to go on holidays. This turned into a social action tool at the service of all the workers in the social action. So of course the economic impact always follows. Some of you don't know the ANCV, so this is the National Agency for Holiday Vouchers. This is a public agency from the Economy and Finance Minister of France. It's about to turn 40 years old, and this mission is to support the elderly to go on holidays with a very simple tool that enables workers to go on holidays. 4.5 million users are benefiting from this program to go on holidays, thanks to their social rights. 1.6 million vouchers in France, and this program enables us to really reach out to the citizens that wouldn't normally be able to go on holidays. The point being to show the importance of holidays in our social cohesion policies, how holidays are at the service of quality of life, of senior citizens, of young citizens, of people with a disability, of people who are excluded from societies. And this is what we tried to do. We tried to increase the number of holiday packages specially designed for these minorities. We had carried out a survey over the past 10 years. Unfortunately, this survey wasn't completed very well, but we looked into who wasn't going on holidays at all in France. When you look at senior citizens, 45% of over 75-year-olds do not go on holidays ever. So that's, of course, a wide part of the population. And so that you know, over 60-year-olds in France account for about 20% of the French population, and will be looking at 30% in less than 10 years. So this is quite a considerable part of the French population. When it comes to the incomes, 50% of senior citizen homes do not pay taxes, which shows how low their pensions are, which leads, of course, to social isolation. They have either lost their social environment or they have never had one. There are also obstacles to their social and cultural development. They are not very used to holidays. They often have organization issues, they have health issues, or are caring for family members who are coping with health issues. So these women and men who live in the shadow and are day in, day out caring for people with disability or disease are losing this social environment and are not going on holidays or having any access to leisure. So what's this program, Seniors on Holiday? It's an all-inclusive package that we as ANCV put together throughout a public tender. So we shortlist a number of players every year. We look at about 200 destinations all around France. You can see the map here on the top left corner with the strong concentration on the coastline. But of course, we have this area that we call the big vacuum in France. We don't have a lot of structures around there, and we're working on it so that the whole country is covered with a grid of structures to accommodate the senior citizens. We go very little abroad. We had tried to include a number of European countries to come up with structures so that our senior citizens could go on holidays there, but the European package is only developed in Spain, Italy, and we have one package in Greece, but of course it's always at the margin. We don't have a lot of places, so I turn back to Benoit. We had tried an exchange program with IMSERSO, but we were just the beginners, and IMSERSO was already well trained, so it didn't take off. So who do we offer packages for? Anybody over 60 years old, 55-year-olds for people with a disability, that's what we call PSH in French. They can apply for the program as a 55. This is open to their life partner, the person that helps them, that takes care of them, their grandchildren as they live with them, and to any pensioner living in a retirement home, all types of retirement homes as well. So there is a financial subsidy for low incomes. ANCV covers for parts of the package. That's about 40% covered for everybody. Everybody has the same criterion. These are senior citizens who do not pay taxes on their pension. So these are people who are supported. When it comes to the partner, the caretaker, the grandchildren, as long as they can justify that they are taking care of a non-autonomous over 60-year-old citizen, can benefit from the program regardless of their age or level of income. This is a scheme that is entirely managed by our agency. There are two possible packages. For 8 days, you're looking at 410 euros tops, or 250 euros if ANCV supports the person. These are all-inclusive packages with events, entertainment, excursions. There is sports and activities all day, which means we're not taking an old person out of their apartment to put them into a hotel room and close the door. We want them to have fun and benefit from good quality entertainment. There are also people who prefer to go on a shorter holiday. So we're looking at 5 days, and these are the eldest amongst our senior citizens. We are talking about over 85-year-old citizens, and these people are requested to pay 343 euros or 208 if they benefit from our support. So we have about 1,500 partners working with us, and associations and pensioners clubs, as well as all other organizations, humanitarian organizations, are partnering with us. For example, the Secours Populaire. This is a humanitarian organization in France that partners a lot with other organizations to improve the quality of life of their users. So I'd like to wave at Isabelle and stress her question. She knows I'm very keen on talking about holidays and how good they are for the quality of life. Sometimes sending an old person or a senior citizen on holiday is much more efficient than an antidepressant. We see it. Holidays enable senior citizens to create a social fabric, self-esteem. A lot of senior citizens are so isolated that they are depressed, they are unhealthy, and they're not doing well. But the minute you send them on holidays, they are better, and no need to medicate them. Their morale is improved, their health is improved, so it's a huge gain for everybody. And since 2011, the public health insurance paying for pensions in France has been supporting the program, and we're celebrating our 10th anniversary. So this is their preventive leg of the social insurance for senior citizens. Numbers now. This agency has been running the program since 2007 and has seen 650,000 pensioners on holidays. I know I cannot compare to IMSERSO, but we're looking at about 90,000 pensioners going on holidays every year. I'm very happy because when I started in 2007, we were sending only 1,500 pensioners on holiday. So now we're looking at almost 100,000 per year. We have very strongly committed partners. They became big players of this scheme by the quality of their services, by the awareness raising that has operated. Sorry, I can't remember what I was showing you now. I was getting carried away and a bit too excited, but it's a real success and it's a collective success. We carried the project with our partners. There is an economic impact that has been assessed to about 34 million euros because some small hotels also decided to join into the program. In 2019, we have allocated over 8.8 million euros in subsidies. It's a voluntary-based funding. Social action profits are being reinvested into the next social programs. Through selling our holiday vouchers, through the sales, we realize some profits that are re-injected into these programs. So about 66%, 2/3 of the participants benefit from the subsidy, which shows how precarious this economic group is. When a social organization decides to send a group of senior citizens on holiday, we know that they reach far lower numbers than when individuals apply for these programs. The individuals who apply for these programs are not necessarily economically in need, but they are desperately isolated and manage to form bigger groups of individuals than social organizations would make up with only one group. So it shows that those people are in desperate need of a social fabric and can afford to go on these holidays. So what kind of profile do we have amongst our users? In purple, you see the ones that traveled in 2019, and they are being benchmarked against the other travelers in France. 70% of these travelers are women, while they only account for 60% in the other categories. You see that the 70 to 84 age group accounts for 62%. Right. In 2010, I gladly welcomed a handful of over 100 years old. And I was very happy to do so. So here you have the map of France. You see most of them come from the north of France in blue here. And then you have the Pays de la Loire. These are the main leading countries, regions. So 69% of the users have done it before, and 31% are leaving for the first time, which means it's about a third. And this is a very satisfying figure. When and where do they go on holidays? We decided to divide the group categories with the individuals. Group users are often much older than individual travelers. Oftentimes, the city organizes these groups for them. And those who go as individuals give all the justifications. They receive an offer, they pick their package, and this is how the professionals get to make up a group with the right individual. You see, for group users, the average age is 74.2, and for individuals, 72.1 years old. You see 54% and 59% account for the seaside. So you see in dark orange here, where those senior citizens mostly decide to go. They go on holidays all year long, except, of course, from the first week of July till the last week of August. These are the holiday period for families, and the structures of accommodation, of course, reserve their accommodations for families. Senior citizens tend to go around May or June, looking for sunshine, and then in September and October. So it works all around the summer break for families, and there has been an increasing demand for New Year's Eve and Christmas parties for those people who are, well, on their own for Christmas or New Year and therefore go on holidays at the end of the winter. So most of the departures happen at the end of August and beginning of September, and most of them in June. Well, I don't need to delve into these social and medical impacts, but Anya and Isabella will like this slide very much. We all know that this is the main driveway for our actions. The most assessed program is the one on the most isolated groups. And therefore, national governments have realized the interest in supporting holiday programs. I'm so sorry, says Dominique, I have a sore throat, and it's difficult for me to speak for so long. I'm so sorry, I need to have a glass of water. I need to stop here. I'm so sorry, says Dominique.
Je vais essayer d'avaler une pastille. J'ai un peu mal à la gorge.
I'm so sorry, I need to take a little honey pill so that I can continue talking. So you see the satisfaction amounts to 98% for groups and 97% for individuals. Does the program meet the expectations of senior citizens? 97% for groups and 96% for individuals. Would they go again? 95%, 98%. So would they like to do it again? 98%. Do they feel better than before departure? 91 to 93%. They've told us they were in better shape, physical and also in better spirits when they got back, and much fitter when they got back as well, 79 to 82%. These are exceptional results. Has the program enabled them to take it upon themselves to get out and do something, to meet friends, to go out and talk to people? 74 to 85% said yes. And 62% of these people said they had kept those good habits at the end of the program. So that's the most important, really. Weaving the social fabric, giving good habits, creating friendships, and breaking isolation. You see the ones who left at the beginning of the year and those who left just before the survey. You see that those who left in January, for example, have answered for 30% and 56%, so that's 89%, kept their friends, kept their holiday friends. So this is the real justification for these programs. What are the prospects for tomorrow? I'll conclude with a question, because I remember that when I arrived at ANCV, my first meeting was organized with IMSERSO because we wanted to draw inspiration through an exchange program. So this is one of the leads we'd like to discuss with IMSERSO. We are very ambitious, and over the next 5 years, at least as of 2025, we'll have so many senior citizens. As you can imagine, we went from 85,000 departures to 22,000, unfortunately. So we'll really have to turn to social and institutional players to possibly set up an exchange program throughout Europe, and ideas to share best practices in terms of medical, psycho, and social impacts. We're launching a survey with the health insurance company to assess the use of holidays as a resilience tool after the crisis. Resilience is a very fashionable word, but it is indeed very important to try and look into groups of seniors who did go and those who wanted to go but were unable to go, and what the results are on their well-being, on their health, on their current lives after leaving or not leaving. So these are the leads we'd like to further explore with you, and thank you very much. I hope I wasn't too fast for the translation. No, that was perfect. And I'm sorry about my coughing. I think this was perfect for the translation, and I hope you won't have any impact of your sore throat on your health. I'd like to move on with a couple of questions before I move to Anya's presentation. And I'd like to reproduce the same question as what I said for IMSERSO. I think once again, we're having very explicit demonstrations on the impact. This is a different area, of course. You did not touch upon the economic impact, at least not as much as your previous speaker said, but we'd like to hear about political justifications. The same question I raised with the previous speaker. Has ANCV been supported politically, or has there been any criticism or questioning of this program by politicians in charge of the budget? Well, I think the answer will be the same as the previous speaker by Mr. Garrido. It's not so much the economic impact, but it's the social impact that is very well felt. And of course, it was a very time-consuming process to justify the interests of this program. It takes a lot of time and effort and work. So our agency does not need a political form of support to work. But since 2015, this program has been included in the legislation on good aging. It's a very important piece of legislation. It has led to the 5th risk on the loss of autonomy. So this was the first milestone in 2015. And then we had the privilege of receiving a publication signed by the minister in charge of autonomy. And this is a form of political support. We are also being supported because the program is very fruitful in terms of social impact. I did not have much time to develop on this. We did not have time to look into tourism professionals and the impact on their lives. But I know they have gained 3 weeks per year in opening of the structures and operating their structures, which has translated into an increase of contracts of 2 weeks. So it's not a lot, but it's 2 more weeks of work per worker in the sector. So we're working very hard on this aspect so that the political sphere also joins into supporting us. I think what we're lacking is the communication. It's not so much the political support, because this program clearly makes lives better. It makes societies better. I like to quote Voltaire, the French philosopher, who says, "I've decided to become happy. It's very healthy." And this is what we understood at ANCV. We really want to demonstrate that if we keep people at home instead of sending them to retirement homes, if we make it possible, well, then we'll make huge savings. So it is extremely profitable. Very well, thank you, Dominique. I think the clock is ticking. Maybe we'd listen to Anya's presentation and all the questions that will be raised. There is already a question in the discussion, but why don't we listen to Anya first? And will you speak English, Anya?
If you prefer, I don't know. Ça va en français?
De toute façon, il y a la traduction, mais donc juste un petit...
There is a translation. I'll make the presentation. Anya is a professor at the Université Libre de Bruxelles. She's a member of the Alliance for Research at ISTO. It's an alliance of professors and academics and researchers in the area of tourism. Her research and findings have looked into social tourism in Belgium as well as in Europe, with a specific concern about well-being. A focus on well-being, and she recently published with Scott Maccabee the pen book, The Handbook of Social Tourism, with Elgate Publisher. It's on the website anyway. Anya, you have the floor. Thank you very much for promoting our book. Good morning, everybody. I'm very delighted that I did not prepare a presentation, since Dominique prepared a very good presentation. I'm not going to repeat everything that was said, so my presentation will be much shorter. So after those two examples that were very good, I think very successful, two of the best examples in Europe, I think it's worth stressing a couple of items and raising a number of questions to which Dominique has already partially answered. So in both cases, we are supporting senior citizens to take part in holidays. So this is, of course, crucial given the rising part of this population category in the general population. I think by 2030, we'll be looking at 22% of the European population that will be senior citizens. So what is a senior citizen? I'm talking about 60-year-olds. Might be personal. I'm 55, so I'm still not a senior citizen, but soon I'll be able to go on holidays with you guys. No, I'm joking, but there are surveys that look into senior citizens as a 50 or 55, so it's all a matter of point of view anyway. Is the translation okay? Ça va très bien. It's very well, thank you.
Ok, ça va. Alors, juste très brièvement revenu.
So very briefly, to come back to the fact that tourism really does make people feel better physically and mentally. Of course, senior citizens, but everybody benefits from holidays. So it's a target group into which we didn't really look, and we've been looking at all tourism initiatives only since 2000, really. It's a very new phenomenon. Before that, there was little or no interest into the benefits of holidays on senior citizens. So let's not delve into this. Dominique did a very good job and provided all the relevant figures. But I'd like to add that a survey was carried out in Portugal by our Portuguese colleagues who carried out an analysis of medical costs following the program Inatel. The Inatel program, it's a very similar program to IMSERSO, and this survey showed the sharp decrease in medical costs that include doctor fees, pharmacy costs, treatments, physiotherapists, and so on and so forth. And we were looking at between 20 and 30% of cost reductions 2 months after the stay. This is a very striking figure that very well illustrates the benefits holidays have on people. So this is an indicator that appeared again in the survey we carried out in Belgium and the French-speaking part, and we realized that senior citizens, all of them, this was a very wide scope, we had almost 4,000 respondents, and we realized that the frequency of holidays was much higher than what we'd imagined. So if they can, senior citizens tend to go several times a year on holidays. And what we distinguished between the main holidays, the summer holidays, as we do when we work and have children, and the small holidays all around the year, were totally disappearing because the senior citizens don't have really a need to take their holidays in the summer or around Christmas, and they just take their holidays throughout the year. And we realized that the health benefit was huge. This is, of course, very important when it comes to political support. Also, what we realized was that, as opposed to the holidays for young minorities, the senior citizens had a higher demand for active holidays. Unlike us, they don't need to rest from their active life. They don't need to lie on a beach and forget about work stress and family stress. No, they're actually looking to get out and see the world because they have time and energy to do so. So this is funny. We thought in our survey to see the shift in the demand. There are also increasing numbers of organized trips, organized travel as of a certain age category. So over 75-year-olds, over 80-year-olds just want to go on organized holiday because, of course, all the mobility and organization constraints cannot possibly be fulfilled when you travel on your own. So the organized holiday is a real solution to this demand. So what we saw is that amongst the whole sample of people, not just the most underprivileged, but all social groups, we saw that people with the lowest income, people who don't have a very high level of education, usually tend to go on organized trips, while the others tend to go rather on individual trips. So to react to what Dominique said about the people who do not go on holidays, we saw that 35.4% of people did not go, but 57.8% of these non-departures were people who were over 80 to 85 years old. So these were people who were unable to go on holidays, but not just because they couldn't afford it financially, This was also the need for a caretaker, for example, that would constantly be next to you, or the need to stay at home because they physically couldn't possibly travel. So we saw that the life satisfaction, of course, was much lower than people who were actually going on holidays. So we raised the question about the tool the holiday is to prevent isolation, to prevent loneliness, to prevent depression, and therefore all subsequent diseases. Isolation is an increasing social phenomenon, a real disease, and this is a disease that can be prevented, not cured, prevented by going on holidays. So we're talking about more than 4 nights. A holiday is more than 4 nights, otherwise it's not considered a holiday. And this has an even more impact than having once a day, for example, a thermal activity or a social activity. That's also very good for the mood. But leaving for 1 week with your peers has a much higher impact still. Now, there is a crucial question, and this is what we're doing with France and Spain. We're looking into this. How do they do this if they try to meet the needs of people who cannot go on holidays? What is being done by the EU? Well, most countries in the EU, and the EU itself does not have similar programs. So there is no EU program for those groups who do not go on holidays and therefore suffer from isolation and bad health. So what can be done? We should look into possibilities to fund social tourism. Of course, there are funds invested in supporting senior citizens, but it's about personal support. It's about caring for old people or elderly, but in Belgium, it is very much the case. And these programs, of course, help people locally. There are economic benefits locally, but what happens when the program is about real estate? So when structures are supported? Well, it's the middleman, such as trade union organizations, as well as health insurance companies that benefit from these subsidies and have to come up with some form of elderly travel schemes. And the supply needs to be much more specific to the target groups, because there are minorities with specific diseases, for example, who have tailored packages. There are very specific packages that are organized, for example, for people with Alzheimer, with specific disabilities, or with specific needs. And you have specific providers that tailor for these special needs. I'm sorry, I need to wrap this up. I hear In Belgium, for example, when we wrapped up our survey, it wasn't obvious that the Ministry of Health would be prepared to supporting throughout investments preventive measures. What they prefer to do is to cure, is to prescribe medications. I don't have time to talk about other countries, but we have seen that in other countries, the preventive impact is recognized. So we are demanding that in Belgium, the same thing operates, because we need to shift from medication to prevention. We need to shift from quality life to desperate life for old people.
Merci, Anya.
Thank you, Anya.
Nous allons avoir un petit temps de... Donc, normalement, la session était prévue jusqu'à 12h.
The session should have finished at 12:30. We'll have a quick question and answer session. I'd like to make a quick clarification about translation.
Excusez. Oui, donc nous allons continuer, mais...
Yes, we will be continuing, but our interpreter needs to have a break. I'm sorry, she's been working non-stop since 11. This is an hour and a half. Usually it's half an hour at once. So
more than 1 hour and a half now. So please, Benoit, let's go. Allons-y avec les questions, and we can organize ourselves for translations.
So there was a first question. Il y avait une...
Merci beaucoup pour l'interprétation.
Oui, merci à Louise.
Merci pour l'interprétation. Je vais donc reprendre une question qui avait été posée dans le chat.
Benoît, on t'entend plus. Enfin, moi, je t'entends plus.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Donc, dans le chat, il y avait une question qui avait été posée à Dominique, qui était de savoir quels sont les critères de financement des participants. Alors, je ne sais pas, est-ce qu'on essaye de basculer en anglais? Charles, peut-être?
Oui, so the question is...
The question is, what are the criteria to finance the participant of the ANCV?
Charles, je te laisse traduire.
Oui, oui.
My English is bad, sorry. On a un critère très simple qui est le même que celui d'IMSERSO. L'aide financière est versée aux seniors qui ne payent pas d'impôts et en fonction de la composition du foyer. Voilà. C'est le critère commun à tous, et ceux qui n'entrent dans aucun critère, ce sont les aidants, quelles que soient leurs conditions de ressources ou leurs conditions d'âge, ils bénéficient de l'aide de l'ANCV. C'était une manière de les obliger à prendre du répit.
Okay, so the main criteria regarding the financial support is for those who do not pay taxes, and it also takes into account the composition of the household. It's also important to mention that for those who help or accompany what we call in French les aidants, those who need support, there is no limitation or no restriction for them. Yeah. Benoît?
Une autre question a été posée. I would like to ask Dominique if the program has helped implement new standard of services within the provider, like COVID measure, or has helped the sector move forward regarding digitalization. Donc, grosso modo, et Charles me corrigera. Donc, c'est Isabelle qui pose la question et qui voulait demander à Dominique si le programme a contribué à mettre en place de nouvelles normes de service au sein des prestataires et s'il a aidé le secteur à progresser en matière de digitalisation.
Alors, je ne sais pas si on fait progresser le secteur en matière de digitalisation. On s'est plutôt, nous, appuyé, on s'est plutôt attaché à faire progresser les seniors en termes de digitalisation. Et donc, nous lançons cette année une déclinaison du programme Seniors en vacances. Donc, on a proposé de créer SEV Connect, pour aider nos seniors à être sensibilisés au numérique, puisque nous avons, au cours de notre étude, constaté que 42% des seniors n'étaient pas du tout ni équipés, ni ne savaient utiliser un clavier. On a également créé Seniors en vacances bien vieillir, et on profite de tous les équipements de nos partenaires, les spas, les piscines, donc pour faire aussi une semaine de bien-être. Voilà ce qu'on a fait évoluer dans le programme des séjours, bien entendu, pour les aidants et les aidés, pour encourager le répit. Voilà, je crois qu'on n'a pas atteint encore l'échelle espagnole pour que derrière, les choses évoluent. En tout cas, ce qui a évolué chez nos prestataires, c'est la connaissance de ce nouveau public. C'est la connaissance et la prise en charge et la bienveillance et l'attention qui est portée à ce public qui est parfois en situation de fragilité. Anya l'évoquait, mais nous avons 4% chaque année de seniors qui sont en situation de handicap ou de dépendance. Donc, des gens qui arrivent en fauteuil. Chez nous, la dépendance est cotée. Ça s'appelle des GIR. Donc, on a des gens qui sont atteints de dégénérescence, de la maladie d'Alzheimer, mais comme nous avons également des gens en fauteuil roulant. Et donc, je pense que là où le secteur a progressé, c'est probablement sur l'appréhension et la prise en charge de ce nouveau public. Je ne sais pas si j'ai répondu à la question d'Isabelle.
Okay, so I think that regarding digitalization, the key message that Dominique is sending us is that she doesn't know if through their programs they help the sector to move forward regarding digitalization. That was the question. But they have implemented some kind of services. They call it Seniors en Vacances Connect, in order to help them to increase their knowledge and practices regarding digitalization. Because based on their survey, she reminded us that 42% of seniors were not well equipped regarding digitalization. So it's more, I would say, a move towards the seniors themselves. That's, I think, one of the most important things to mention. Yes.
Je voulais poser une question à nos interlocuteurs d'IMSERSO qui sont toujours présents. Anya pointait le fait qu'il existait l'impact des différents dispositifs sont diversifiés en fonction de la nature des dispositifs. Et du coup, je me demandais, est-ce qu'en Espagne, il y a d'autres dispositifs, donc il y a ce dispositif IMSERSO, mais est-ce qu'en termes de tourisme social et de tourisme des aînés. Il y a d'autres dispositifs qui viennent compléter ou qui viennent s'adjoindre au dispositif IMSERSO. So Anya pointed the interest of different device, different program, and the different impact of the different program. And so I get a question: are there some other programs in Spain for social tourism or for senior, or is it the IMSERSO is the only one, and the speedway I want to say on social tourism?
Hello, thank you for the question. We have, as you said, the program for tourism, and there's the other for thermalism. And I'm going to take these minutes just to answer something that I saw in the chat, which I don't know if it was correctly understood. I mean, correctly known by everybody, which is the thermalism program, which is the people traveling to spas, to thermal stations. That's what we call thermalism program. It has some differences. And my response in relation to other big devices like that, no, there are no other programs in the territory for seniors. The rest would be like private or individual or whichever. Some just one second. Some autonomous communities, which are the regions, have some smaller programs that are aimed to complement the IMSERSO program financially. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Charles, do you?
Oui.
Translation? Yeah.
Oui, donc Sarah rappelle un petit peu, là, parce qu'il y avait une question sur le thermalisme. Donc, c'est effectivement les personnes qui voyagent vers les sites où on a des sources thermales. Bon, voilà, c'est un programme, j'allais dire, qui quantitativement est moins important que celui du tourisme senior, celui du thermalisme, et qui existe aussi depuis plusieurs années. À savoir, est-ce qu'il existe en Espagne d'autres programmes? Elle dit que non, sauf si c'est des programmes privés ou davantage individuels. Mais elle rappelle que certaines régions apportent aussi parfois des compléments au programme d'IMSERSO en général. Donc, il peut y avoir des actions complémentaires des régions au programme d'IMSERSO.
So time is running, but we can again take some minutes to ask some questions. So I don't know if some participants want to ask some question in the discussion or in the question and answer.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Any other questions?
If not, we have 10 minutes past of the timing. It's a good thing. It's not too much. I want to je veux remercier. I want to thank you. I want to thank all the participants, especially the director of IMSERSO, who is not to live. Merci à Dominique, merci à Anya. We have a next CafecISTO, the 19th of January, about UNESCO Intangible Heritage Tourism. the UNESCO intangible heritage and the tourism. I want to also apologize Muriel Antoniotti, the president of ISTO Europe. She can't be here because she have obligation. That's not professional obligation, but legal obligation. So she couldn't be here, and she was very sad to be out of the session. I'm sure she will listen and watch the video when it will be on the site of ISTO. I want to thank everybody, every participant, and we will see you in 2 months. Charles, I will let you the last words.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Benoit, for the animation of this CafecISTO Europe on senior tourism. Je veux remercier évidemment à nouveau nos intervenants, l'ANCV avec ISTO, avec lequel ISTO développe un partenariat, et donc cette activité-ci s'inscrit notamment dans le cadre de ce partenariat. Un grand merci, Dominique, à toi pour ta contribution et tes apports, tes fidèles apports à ce partenariat et aux actions qui sont posées. Muchas gracias también a IMSERSO, Sara, para la participación hoy del director general. Sabemos que con la pandemia no ha sido un tiempo fácil, pero estamos muy contentos que estén con nosotros y esperamos que ese seminario pueda también facilitar un meilleur crecimiento, collaboration. Donc j'aimerais dire que je remercie aussi IMSERSO pour leur présence. Les derniers mois avec la pandémie n'ont pas été faciles pour le programme qui va reprendre. Et un de nos souhaits, évidemment, c'est de faire en sorte que cette collaboration se poursuive. Collaboration aussi, vous savez, qui peut aussi prendre différentes formes entre l'ANCV, IMSERSO et d'autres pays. Merci Anya aussi pour tes éclairages toujours intéressants en te basant sur les différentes recherches universitaires, académiques qui sont faites et la prise de données sur la base d'expériences terrain. Donc, quoi dire sinon qu'à l'échelle notamment européenne, est-ce qu'on verra un jour, comme quelqu'un l'a déjà dit, un IMSERSO européen ou un senior en vacances européen? Dans tous les cas, c'est un peu le rôle d'ISTO Europe, de favoriser cette collaboration, puisque les modèles, ces modèles-là qui fonctionnent, qui ont des bénéfices économiques et sociaux prouvés à de multiples reprises, ne peuvent qu'inciter nos dirigeants et espérons-le, les dirigeants européens à pousser pour que de telles initiatives voient le jour dans d'autres pays et aussi qu'elles puissent prendre des formes à travers les programmes européens. Donc voilà, merci encore aux participants. Je veux remercier tout le staff d'ISTO qui a été impliqué dans la logistique et l'organisation. Donc, Sabrina, Jacques, merci aussi donc à Benoît et Virginie, sa collaboratrice. So, thanks everybody. We keep in touch. The recording will be available as it has been said. And see you soon. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.